Coming up today on the highly anticipated episode of Circle Back.
Kelly in Vegas are saying this doesn't affect anyone. Completely not true. This affects nearly everyone in gambling, and it should be universally agreed upon this is bad.
You know, this narrative of like, well, we're going right back to the PPH world. It's like, that to me is just the ultimate like copium. That's never coming back.
Yeah, do you think I do this? Hang on, do you think I work with you for free, Knish? I'm getting paid to be here, man.
If you are going to cheat, whether it's on some kind of gambling prop, taxes, whatever, make sure to do it smartly so you don't get caught. That's what I think that everybody should gather from the whole point of the show.
Disclaimer. The content presented in this show is intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of any individuals or organizations mentioned. Statements made about public figures or entities are based on publicly available information and are not intended to harm or defame any person or business. This show relies on fair use of social media posts, which are presented in good faith for the purpose of commentary and criticism. Viewers and listeners are advised to form their own opinions. It's that time. It's Circle Back here on the Circles Off channel. It's part of the Hammer Betting Network and presented by Kalshi. This is the show where we uncover the latest and greatest stories from gambling Twitter. This is the one that you have been waiting for, but we have to pause it a little bit before because it's July 4th. Happy Independence Day to all of our American listeners. I am joined today by two Americans who are future Canadians. We have Joey Knish in the bottom right corner. We have Flup, who's already at the airport, ready to make the move to the north side of the border. You didn't even want to celebrate the 4th of July. And in the top right corner, our fourth for today is Mike, Mr. PeanutBettor. He is allegedly Canadian. Can you confirm or deny these allegations, Mike?
I'm not Canadian. It's a hurtful rumor put out by Chris. He's a coastal elite. He considers anything that's not New York City or one of the West Coast to not be really part of America. He considers it all Canada. So, it's no surprise that he's looking down on good old Midwest values.
You're all celebrating Independence Day today, as many of the viewers are, but next year you'll be celebrating Canada Day a few days before, especially if
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Especially if this bill is in place. We will see, but this is, of course, the lead-off topic for today. It is by far the biggest story going on in the gambling space right now, and there is absolutely a threat to sports betting as we know it. We'll start off the conversation with this tweet from Captain Jack Andrews, part of Unabated, Sharp Better, at CapJack2000, who said, the hits just keep on coming. The big, beautiful bill proposes that gambling losses be capped at 90% of winnings, even for professionals. If you file the way the IRS intends, you declare gross winnings and deduct losses. This means even losing gamblers would owe money on their gambling. He follows this one up by saying, dark day in New Jersey and the future of sports betting, consumers were hit with a triple whammy of bad legislative moves. Number one, gross gaming revenue taxes were raised to 19.75% for operators. As we've seen, this flows through the consumer with the poor pricing and higher margins. Number two, sweepstakes betting was declared illegal in the state. The New Jersey bettor will now have far fewer trusted places to make a bet. Number three, and perhaps the most egregious, betting partnerships were criminalized in the state. Fortunately, the language softened a bit from what was originally posted. However, you make a bet for someone else, you are now committing a crime equal to using loaded dice on craps, marking cards in blackjack, or rigging a slot machine. There was a big post here from Matt Glantz who kind of outlined the bill, but let's give it to the cast here. Let's go to you, Flup. You seem to have quite a big understanding of what's going on here. Why don't you take us and the viewers through all the information you have on the bill and how it's going to be harmful to not just pro bettors, but casual bettors?
So at this point, the bill is passed. And I first want to explain what the bill is, and what the gambling portion of the bill is and why it's problematic. As Captain Jack outlined, it caps gambling losses at 90%. So a common example for a recreational bettor would be, say you gamble $100,000 in all your winning sessions and you profitable, and all your losing sessions, you lose $100,000. You would have zero for the year, but you would owe taxes on $10,000. So to many people, even reps, this would be a huge tax bill on money they might not even potentially have. if you make this increase the volume, say 1 million, you know, taxes on 100,000 of games, or at any reasonable tax bracket, that'd be upwards of $30,000 to $50,000 on a year where you broke even. So imagine if you're a recreational bettor, at the end of the year, you get a bill that says, hey, you owe the government $40,000. That would be very problematic. And for a professional, for my line of work, I'm a high volume, low ROI guy. I did the numbers based on last year. I would not be able to operate. I would owe more in taxes than I profited last year. And this is not just a bill against pro gamblers. This is a bill against any kind of gambling, with the exception of the massive losers or the extremely high ROI guys for pro gamblers. So anyone saying, like I saw, we'll get to it later, but Kelly in Vegas was saying this doesn't affect anyone. Completely not true. This affects nearly everyone in gambling, and it should be universally agreed upon this is bad. Now let's talk about why this bill got added into place. There's two major theories. One, which is by far the most likely and probably happened, which is Michael Crapo and Joe Thune, who are Republican senators, were trying to boost revenue for this bill. And they thought this would be a good idea to generate revenue. They think, oh, if you reduce the losses by 10%, 90% max writing off losses, that'll boost revenue by potentially up to 10%. Then they were able to forecast out 10 years, and it showed $1.1 billion in potential gains up until 2035. So, or 2036. So they're like, okay, so this will boost the bill. It'll help get the bill across the board. No one on their staff or team understood what the ramifications are to pro gambling. This is not a 10% increase in tax on pro gambling. This is, in some cases, for example, in my case, this would be a nearly 250% increase on my tax bill. So, and now I might be one of the most extreme versions considering how high volume I do and how low ROI I have. But for others, it could be even worse, or upwards of 50 to 100% tax increase, making it impossible to continue gambling as a professional. And as a recreational, they might, at the end of the year and have a negative bank balance even if they lost in a specific year. So I don't think anyone fully understood, hey, this is what happened. And now that the bill has been passed, the next steps are like, oh, we need to have someone sponsor a bill for either a technical correction or a provision to this bill, or Crapo and Thune themselves need to come out and publicly state, hey, we meant to intend this. And what I think they meant to intend was that losses are only capped at 90% against business expenses. So an example of this would be, say I spent $50,000 this past year researching with, subscriptions, like an undebated subscription would be a great example, or anything of that nature. And I lost $50,000 last year gambling. I would be able to write all $50,000 against a business expense. Well, in this new bill, I'd only be able to write off $45,000. So it would be a tax increase for me, but minor in the grand scheme of things. That's what I think they intended to have. And if they could clarify that, this whole thing would be gone and be fixed. So as Mike says, a big super fan, Dina Titus is, or Titus, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She is a Nevada congressperson, senator, and she is trying to introduce legislation into this, saying to clarify this bill. Another solution potentially is also to get clear definitions on what a session is. A session has always been defined as, or always thought to be defined as, maybe like one poker cash game session, one tournament for poker, or for sports betting, one bet. If it's one bet, it is not possible. If they define a session as 1 month, 3 months, or the full year, for example, this bill is fine. So if we can get clear definitions on that, or we get a clarification from Crapo or a new bill amending that specific legislation, it'll all be okay. And I think it's actually a strong likelihood, considering this bill helps no one and will reduce revenue. It was just a big misunderstanding of how the revenue was generated. That's my general opinion on this. Sorry for the long spiel, but that should cover everything.
Should give listeners a good idea of what's going on here, but let's go to you, Mike, Mr. Peanut Butter. What's your take on this one? Like from when it came out, you've been pretty active on Twitter about it. Give us your thoughts here.
Yeah, funny enough, well, after I quit my job, one of the texts I sent to a former coworker was, along the lines of, thank God I'll never have to read another IRS regulation ever again in my life. And then spent most of yesterday reading different regulations and different parts of the tax code. So, Flup, first I want to ask you, so you said that it will have to be done with an amendment to the bill. So like the IRS can put down these different revenue rulings and things like that. Do you think that there's any chance it gets cleaned up in that?
Yes.
It'd be probably a pretty loose definition of like a ruling or a guidance, considering they've already kind of talked about this some. But like, I think that one of those is possible. The problem is, to me, that probably wouldn't go into effect until like into 2026. So basically, you'd have to be hoping for it.
No. So if I misspoke, it doesn't always only have to be fixed by an amendment or technical correction. It can be fixed by IRS clarifying this. And they can easily clarify this before 2026 because this is such a damning problem. I mean, if anyone could clearly understand why this is so problematic and why this will cause massive negative revenue losses, like if this law with no fixes changes, I just won't gamble 2026. There goes all my tax revenue dollars. I'm assuming many other pro gamblers like myself, potentially even a majority of recreational gamblers wouldn't gamble anymore. So it's pretty easy for the IRS to see the potential problem from this and just issue a statement saying like, hey, this is how we're going to handle that situation, and that could happen before 2026. I would say the odds that this gets fixed are well over 90% by the end of 2026. And I'm not trying to be like the world is ending kind of here, but it needs to be understood that if this doesn't get fixed, the world does end for professional gambling and the gambling industry as a whole.
Right. I in a lot of cases, the way that these things kind of get like ruled out by the IRS is like, it's called a private letter ruling, which essentially is someone writing and saying, hey, IRS, what do you think of this like definition? Like, this is what I plan on using. They'll send it out, make it public and be like, this is what we're using as a definition of a session or something like that would be an area where you could get a private letter rulings. When I worked in taxes in the past, our kind of policy was don't ask, and then you can't be told that you're wrong. So maybe I would guess that most pro gamblers are probably going to try to go along that route, which is unfortunate for everybody else trying to get the wording of their ruling. But yeah, it just seems like, the IRS would have to take pretty strong liberties if it's not actually written into the bill itself or amended by a congressman. That seems like it should be more something that's passed by legislation than an IRS ruling.
There was a lot of people who were outspoken about this and the bill. People were just trying to get more exposure to what was going on here because a lot of people recognize very quickly that this does pose a lot of threat to sports betting as we know it. Other people have said that perhaps just go back to offshores and PPHs. That's the best way to combat this. Knish, you are pretty outspoken on Twitter that is not the case. Why don't you elaborate on that for us?
Well, first off, as it stands, it feels good to be the only member of this panel to earn an honest living at 2026 going forward. So,
what do you think?
Yeah,
do I do this? Hang on. Do you think I work with you for free, Knish? I'm getting paid to be here,
it doesn't really like, the other two guys gamble and you're kind of, doing a content thing. So I don't think that counts. I'm actually contributing to, society in a realm. Okay. But no, I've seen this narrative of like, well, we're going right back to the PPH world. It's like, I mean, that to me is just the ultimate like copium. That's never coming back. I also thought it was interesting how this wasn't strongly opposed, or at least publicly opposed, by any of the legal sports books. So I don't think you have that avenue to get it back. I agree with Flup. I think there'll probably be some at least moderation or edit to come in at once the full ramifications are understood by people that can actually do something about it. But this to me is not like this ultimate, well, we're going to go offshore. You've already seen what's happening to sweepstakes books in some states. And I just don't think it leads to this ultimate revival to get away or get back from, legal gambling. That I think, as Flup said, it just kind of kills the pro gambling career if this is gonna stick 100%. And the other aspect is, I just don't think people are going to really follow it in most cases. I mean, I think you have a bunch of people that would continue and just it's going to hurt tax revenue because people aren't going to file what they're actually making.
Yeah, I mean, if this is a case, why not reduce losses that you can claim to 20%, and then you'll get 80% more income by this kind of logic that you're just, I mean, why not just have it be negative 500% and you'll get you'll be reducing the deficit to zero. This kind of math that if you just reduce 10%, that's how it impacts it. It's just crazy static math that doesn't take into effect second order effects at all. It's absurd.
Another thing I want to add, offshore and PPH, it's not like you don't have to pay taxes. It's just easier to fudge the numbers and lie about it. So just go to offshore. If I earn money in America from offshore PPH, I owe taxes on that. What are we talking about? I'm a U.S. citizen. And another thing I want to point out to you, Joey, is I tweeted about this earlier today. I'm not sure, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the MGMs of the world are actually in support of this by not saying anything. This bill was always going to pass. Whether you like it or not, I don't care what your politics are, Republicans had a supermajority. They controlled the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It was always going to go through. Might have been some negotiations. Might have been a chance that got sent back in a slight amendments in the House, but the giant bill was going to go in. And frankly, no one cared enough about the gamblers because that wasn't the real meat of the bill. So now that the bill is passed, now the real battle starts, and now we'll see if truly these books are silent or not. I suspect they'll come out and either support privately or encourage other adoptions or interpretations of the law that make it possible for people to actually bet.
And if not, we march on the Capitol, Flop.
Well, this would be the gamblers January 6th, not.
How about July 6th, halfway through the year instead? We get to have it once every half year, something like that.
Yeah, so Flup's actually flying to Crapo's office in Idaho right now to
not true.
Shove him up against a locker there in the room.
I haven't played the main event for poker in my life. I decided, since I won Circus Survivor, I'm more likely to win the main event now because I'm good at picking contests. So I figure I'll win that and retire. I won't need to deal with this whole gambling nonsense.
I had to sneak in our resident one-time contest winner. I mentioned a lot of people were opposed to the bill. Somebody who didn't really care about the bill that Flup alluded to earlier was Kelly in Vegas. Does a lot of work with Wager Talk. Pick Seller says, why is gambling Twitter freaking out? Only 1% of sports gamblers are profitable. Does everyone on here think they are part of the chosen few? Philip, because you introduced it earlier, I'm sure you have plenty of thoughts. Why don't you start off on this as well?
As I said before, this does not only affect winning gamblers. It affects break-even and even in some cases, losing gamblers. If you gamble a lot, it will affect you. And it's also just hilarious because isn't her whole business model that she sells picks? So, I guess she's like, my subs, they don't actually win. I mean, who cares? So this whole thing was just hilarious.
In theory, not only is Kelly a winning bettor if she's selling picks, all of the people who buy her picks are also winning bettors. So anybody who follows Kelly in Vegas and buys her picks is directly affected by the bill. So this is a very ignorant comment.
Yeah, this just shows complete lack of understanding of how basic math and sports betting works. It was pretty sad actually to see.
Yeah. Well, when you go from pick selling grifting to political grifting, I think now you've officially made the conversion when you can't criticize a piece of legislation that's going to supposedly kill your industry and profit. So.
Yeah. I don't really it was also not only you can tweet something wrong and not fully understand, but then it was the double, the triple, the quadruple down in the comments, the 8 times of just not wanting to actually understand, or someone's like, hey, here's how it actually works. And I'm going to completely ignore that and just, kind of got to put it down again. So
I don't know if we can find this tweet. It wasn't from Kelly in Vegas, but it was from Todd Whittles, I think. China Maniac was explaining how this bill affects recreational gamblers. And then Todd goes, no, that's not how the formula, and then says the exact formula that China uses to prove him wrong. And I was like, you just agreed with him. What do we? So these people, they've already made up their mind. They're not even understanding or reading what's going on. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, Kelly in Vegas gets a lot of shit online, so I can see why she can be a bit like combative against people who come at her. But there were a lot of people genuinely in the replies, like trying to educate, and just it was a complete utter refusal to concede anything. It's okay to admit you're wrong on the internet sometimes. Absolutely. Where are we headed with this, do you think, Flup? You said 90% chance that there is something that's changed in here. How bad of a position or how good of a position are sports bettors in currently as of Thursday, July 3rd at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time of recording?
Look, most individual bettors can't do anything. I mean, I see this stuff as all write your congressman. That's not how politics works. I mean, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So most people have to just wait and see. But I would say they're in a very bad spot considering literally 3 weeks ago, before this got added June 16th, 3 weeks ago, we were at 0% of the industry dying, and now we're at a number greater than that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that true number is, but we're still very likely to be okay. So I wouldn't like doom and gloom, but the key thing is I would still put make sure the pressure is on, make sure you're aware. If you can do anything at all, you still have to be aware. So that would be the only thing that I would say, but most people can't, unfortunately.
Well, there's always a threat potentially of, times not staying as good as they are right now for sports bettors. This was brought up by Spreadsheet Virgin. At iBetPal says in 2 years, when they're fighting to get $8 down on Super Bowl props, the Americans are going to look back at the Silver Age and wonder why they logged 400 hours in elf spaces instead of getting in good while they still could. Now, this is a good segue into the second topic, which was brought up by China Maniac, who you mentioned, Sharp Sports Bettor, who's been a guest on the Circles Off podcast as well, says biggest time sucks that hold back gamblers from reaching new heights besides drugs and alcohol. Video games, watching poker streams, Twitter Spaces, and trying to win and be right on every topic in social media.
We call that the Flup quadfecta in the industry. That's I think he got that right from Flup's homepage.
China says that he's also guilty of this because he is now addicted to Lego City Undercover on Switch. Knish, are sports bettors allowed to get themselves involved in hobbies such as this? Like, how dedicated do you need to be to the grind?
I mean, I actually, no joke, I'm not just making this up for the segment. When I started doing this seriously, part of it was I quit playing video games. Like, video games were a part of my life, and like took that time out of my life and kind of reallocated it to sports betting. And I still don't. Like, I've been, now I'd lose to my, little nephew in Mario Party now these days. I'm totally washed on the gaming scene, but there are what I would call, like maybe ulterior motives, and that's things. I think a lot of people that go into the spaces might be, it is a time suck and to do that. I do know some of people, maybe some people on the panel here, might have leveraged that time to then get some new partnerships out of it, new other things. So it's not always like a complete waste of time suck that, it's like I'm not doing it for any reason. And I mean, just even if it's a hobby that you enjoy, I don't know, maybe, PeanutBettor looks like he likes to, write on whiteboards in the back or paint or something for a living or something. You have to kind of get out of you can't do this 24/7. You'll end up going crazy. As someone that's been on the verge of going crazy a few times, it is good to have, something outside of betting to at least focus your time. I wouldn't recommend any of those things maybe per se, but I think it's, you can't just do this 24/7, 365.
How about you, Mike? Anything you do that takes away from your gambling that you need to stop? What are your thoughts on this?
If the original question is, are bettors allowed to have hobbies? I would have to say yes. I think that they're allowed to do some things outside of work, but I obviously spend probably not a good amount of time on Twitter. Trolling Man of Vig was half of my to-do list for a day when the Thunder were playing in the NBA Finals. But it's just like you could have put that list out for any job, and that would have been time sucks that people spend. I mean, maybe not the elf spaces part or spending time on Twitter probably as much, but everybody's going to have things that they're doing outside the job. Obviously some are going to be more productive than others, but if you're spending 24/7 betting, which I probably come pretty close to at different times, it's probably not good long-term as far as burnout and things like that.
I want to also attack Joey real quick here. He made some very hurtful insinuations that I wasn't a contributing member of society. Well, I was a hardworking member of society. Some would call me some have alluded that I'm a coastal elite. Couldn't be further from the truth. Up until about 3 months ago. So, and I did stop playing video games to actually spend the time to do the sports betting thing. So now that I will admit, though, now that I've quit the full-time job, I have played a little bit of video games the last few months. But it's hard to grind like 24/7. You need to have some kind of relaxing. And I did hop into these spaces for maybe not only entertainment, some ulterior motives as well.
All right. Let's get to the next topic here. Like I said earlier, it is the 4th of July. And of course, the 4th of July means we have the Nathan's famous hot dog eating contest, and we have the return of the GOAT, Joey Chestnut, to this year's competition. No Mickey Mouse belts or trophies being handed out this year. Joey Chestnut is back, and he is the favorite, according to the Kalshi market, which we have pulled up here. If you want to sign up to Kalshi, please go to the link in the description. Joey Chestnut given a 92% chance at the time I pulled this, right before we started recording at 4 p.m. Eastern time on July 3rd. Patrick Bertoletti, 7%. He is last year's champion. He ate 58 hot dogs last year. 2 years ago when Joey Chestnut won, he ate 62. So we'll see what sort of battle there is there. Jeffrey Esper, 3% chance, number 3rd position here. Word around the water cooler is that Joey Knish, you enjoy betting on this competition. Is that correct?
You know what? There's an old article about when you could really get. Actually, the liquidity this year isn't too bad. I'm not going to lie about it. So yeah, I got some. You know what? By the time this comes out, I'll just put it out there. I know this isn't a pick show. That this year's Bertoletti opener is maybe the worst number in this contest in the last 5 to 10 years. I think it opened at 48.5. The guy did 58 last year. He's already been talking about wanting to go to the 60 club this year. He's got his boy Chestnut back to push him. I think Bertoletti's going 60s. So I know that everybody wants to talk Chestnut. Do I think he can really get to the level or give him a go? Probably not. But Chestnut being the big story, if you're getting money down, I think the big story is, Bertoletti, good to any number, baby. Maybe anything in the 50, I think he's getting 60. His number opened 48.5. There was 50 out there. Hopefully, if you listen to this at 8 in the morning tomorrow, I think anything mid-50s and up is good. So, yeah, this is probably the biggest position I've had in a hot dog contest in a few years. And if you're listening to this at noon tomorrow and he goes for 45, you won't see me on next week's show. I'll be getting a second job instead of,
Joey,
being on this.
Can we get us a little hint of liquidity here? How many hot dogs will you win if it goes your way?
You know what? So So usually it's a little, traditionally it's tougher to get down. A certain book, which usually doesn't have this stuff on the kiosk yesterday, might have had the Bertoletti over under, and I might have stood there for a period of time until they told me to leave. So yeah, I'll let me tell you something. This hits, baby. July 4th at the Knish also. We won't be eating hot dogs. I'm be giving Wagyu out in this kitchen to whoever wants it. So or I'm gonna be Flup's gonna have to overnight me some hot dogs from wherever I'm at. So.
How about you, Mike? You do any dabbling with the hot dog eating contest?
Yeah, going back to Joey's point, I was amazed at Kalshi's liquidity on the event. I was looking at it for just to kind of dip my toes in it. Wasn't gonna bet too serious, and then when I saw the liquidity, I decided to actually go in and do some research. I talked to one guy who actually went and weighed the hot dogs that Chestnut was using in the Netflix competition versus the Nathan's hot dogs, and saw the difference in densities, and was telling me the weight of how many hot dogs he ate, what that would equate back to in the Nathan's version. So, I mean, you can get, I'll just say I have a 5-figure position in the hot dog competition this year, based on both on Chestnut, number of dogs eaten, and winner. So Kalshi, you can get crazy limits on this. I love to go and dive into markets that nobody takes seriously. So, big liquidity, kind of random information. I've been watching Joey Chestnut interviews. This is like kind of my sweet spot of betting. So I'll be big time rooting for old Joey Chestnut.
Also, a little pet peeve. Can we not use the percentages? My brain does not work like that. You can convert the Kalshi into American odds. Like, I know you're a Canadian and you don't like this, but if we have the screenshot next time, it can show like the plus and minus odds. I can't deal with these percentages. My brain doesn't work.
Next time, I got you.
Great
no, you
point.
Should be. That's the one thing that you're wrong. I don't understand the hold. That's the part that I'll never understand is the hold, buy, limit orders, that kind of stuff. I'm just a simple bettor, but I think the percentages is way easier to intuitively understand.
Well, because it's our guest and he wants the percentages, we'll pull up the hot dogs eaten by Nathan's contest winner and continue to use the percentages. So the forecast here is 86% chance of 65 or more. The current forecast is 72.2 hot dogs eaten by the Nathan's contest winner. Knish, you said you looked at this, and also Mike, you said you looked at this as well. Any thoughts on this one here? Because like I said, last year the winner was 58, Bertoletti. 2 years ago, it was Joey Chestnut at 62. And the year before that, I believe it was 63. So we haven't seen 70 plus since Chestnut had 76 in 2021. But are we heading for a big score tomorrow or today for the people who are listening?
So the last 2 years, Joey, 1 year was rained out. So they were in a massive delay. It delayed it multiple hours. So that's why his hot dog percentage was down. The other one, there was a protester ran out onto the thing and put Joey Chestnut in a chokehold. And that was the reason he fought off the protester and still ate 62. So you really got to dive in deep to see those numbers.
I thought that was the same year it had happened. It was delayed and there was a protester. Am I wrong?
No, I believe they're separate years, or I did some really bad research on a position.
Okay, I believe you.
You're talking to a man that just spent the past week researching the hot dog.
You're right. Who am I to ask?
I've been breaking the all 22 film down of these hot dog competitions. Okay, so, but yeah, I think that if he has said that if he doesn't think he has a shot for the record, he gets lazy. So maybe the ends are the way to go, the tails of that distribution, but I think that he's going to go, he has a chance for breaking the record this year.
You just uncovered a big edge. You bet the under on Joey Chestnut and then go attack him while he's on stage. It's like betting on will there be a streak or the Super Bowl? Yes, yourself, and then just doing it yourself. You're uncovering a massive edge here. So,
Jacob, I'm just going to say you probably don't want to encourage committing crimes on the podcast. Probably not.
I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying.
And wear a T-shirt that says "Reduce gambling tax" as you do it to get attention to the
issue. You're killing two birds with one stone by doing that. I think that if somebody did that, it would be very interesting, though I would not recommend anybody doing it, of course. Let's jump into the comments from the previous week's episode. Reminder, you can always leave a comment down below and we'll pick the best, maybe sometimes the worst, to feature in next week's Friday episode. So comment something down below. And while you're there, make sure you do smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel as well for Circle Back content hosted by me, Jacob Gramegna. Yes, every Tuesday and Friday here on the Circles Off channel. All right, let's dive into the first comment here. It comes from @2cheese28. I can only imagine what Uncle K's coworkers think of hearing him scream in a meeting booth for 90 minutes. No way those things are soundproof. You're at home today, Knish, but are those little bubbles you work in soundproof?
No, they're definitely not. Thankfully, as working on the bean counter floor, most people are out by the time we're recording this when I'm there. But
if they aren't, they're getting the fuck out of there right after you start.
Yeah. The other thing is, Joey, you're in the corporate world now. Most of your time, meetings are rare, like actual meetings in person. I'm usually talking on Teams meetings anyway. So if somebody walks by, I'm just talking to 3 idiots on a Teams meeting.
Next comment. It's coming at Flup a little bit. This is from your NFL top 10 coaches list, which we talked about last week. This is from Jeff O'Reilly 9751. It says McDonald over Sirianni is insane. Nick has been to the playoffs 4 straight years, 2 Super Bowls. I don't care how good the roster is. The base level of competence that is there. He's now on the 3rd offensive and defensive coordinators. Meanwhile, McDonald has been a coach for 1 year and missed the playoffs. Good job, Flup. Maybe someone who lost 6 figures on Cuomo isn't the sharpest guy to rank NFL coaches. How do you respond?
Honestly, great comment. I mean, it was a great dig. These kind of digs I appreciate. It's well thought out. And honestly, I think he's kind of right. I probably was reaching a bit for McDonald here, but I will stand firm that I think Nick Sirianni is overrated and is probably just an average coach that's babysitting an elite roster. But all valid criticism. I mean, I probably shouldn't be commenting if I'm going to punt 6 figures on Cuomo.
And to our guest who likes to dive into markets that people don't usually look at, how about this hypothetical market from @Circleback Commenter? T-Bone versus Pizzola line is -110, -110, tail of the tape. Pizzola legally blind and we'll see exactly 0 T-Bone legally hammered and we'll see exactly 3 blurry Pizzolas. Even fight, 3 rounds, 0 punches landed. Any early insight on that one on the opener, Mike, on where you might land on that betting market hypothetically?
Seeing Tebow throw a bunch of punches in a ring might already knock him out. So I think that if they're both missing contact, I have to take Rob as far as just being able to withstand standing up and getting a boxing workout in. So I think, the old boss man Rob has a chance in that one as long as T-Bone is legally hammered, as the guy puts it, which I think.
Give me the liquidity on Kalshi. Give me T-Bone for the max, whatever I can get. I think old T-Bone's taking Rob to the blender there. Assuming I'm getting T-Bone, between drink 0 and 13, yeah, I'm okay. I still feel good about it. If it's 3 a.m.,
I don't agree to those terms. 0 and 13. I think we have to be 13 plus. We have to go at median drink level if we're going to do this.
If we're on, tequila number 14, then maybe it's a problem.
Does the Rolex come off for the boxing match, or do you think he keeps that on?
How do you think his odds change whether or not it's on? I think his odds actually, I think he has a better chance of winning with it on. He's got the confidence with it on.
Of course, it's almost like a weapon.
It's a swagger thing, too.
Yeah.
Look good, feel good, play good. Following up the comments, we have a tweet here from John Lerner who says, "Hey, ESPN Bet, can you be a bit more specific on the issue?" And here is the ESPN Bet email, I suppose, that he received. It says, "Hey, Jonathan G, we want players to have fun and enjoy ESPN Bet and Hollywood Casino. That's why we're committed to a policy of responsible gaming. There are certain behaviors that can potentially put you at higher risk of developing a gambling problem. 1, increasing bet size and frequency. 2, spending more time on our platform. Number 3, chasing losses. You're currently exhibiting one of the above behaviors. Therefore, we want to give you some tips on how to stay safe and keep gambling fun. Best ways to ensure you gamble responsibly is to set limits and stick to them. A bunch of other stuff about responsible gaming. We hope you'll take some of our suggestions into consideration." John Lerner said in the original post, last 7 days, 4 wagers, $121 risk. Last 30 days, 10 wagers, about $300 risk. What triggered the email? Anybody provide potentially some insight into what was going on here? Have you ever had anything where ESPN Bet is or anywhere is sending you an email such as this?
Yeah, this is very disgusting behavior from the sports book. This is almost always the case that they're using responsible gambling as a tool to attack sharp and winning bettors, which is just gross behavior. It's very likely that he got CLV or the bets were sharper, and they just want to use this to kind of get information and try to basically tell him to fuck off from the sports book and maybe lock his money away. I've seen this happen before where I've had multiple different RG cases for myself, and they've been handled differently based on the fact that I'm up or down in the sports book. This kind of behavior is pure scum from the sports book. I'm no Kirk Evans. I know Kirk Evans tried to spend sports books at every second, but this is just disgusting behavior.
You know what? Like I've gotten those alerts when you're betting on like, you've wagered, $23,000 in the last 45 minutes or something from when you're on one of the, like one of our other sponsors websites. But yeah, this is, I don't know, maybe I'm not being as nihilistic with this as Flup, as almost, I don't know if it's a sharp thing as just kind of like a canned email that they sent when it may be like a slight uptick in wagering activity. So I'm going to go a little lighter on that.
Could it be something, call me the sportsbook simp here. Could it just be an automatic, he spent more time on the app and it has like certain triggers that they have put in place. I'm not really sure. I'm in Vegas, so I have a lot of are not the softer legal book. So I haven't dealt with this problem really. Except for a few times when I've driven over to Arizona and have placed large volume very quick. So it made sense. But is it a chance it's just like an automatic trigger based on time spent on the app?
I think that could be it. And again, you're no Kirk Evans. I mean, we can, sometimes on this show, be a little fair to spurts, but no one lathers up sports books like Kirk. So it's all right.
I mean, maybe it's a possibility. I just, based on my experience, I'm going to be biased here and say it's likely not that. And if it is that, it's kind of idiotic. I mean, this is clearly not problem gambling behavior. Like, what are we doing here?
I was going to ask, would showing signs of being a problem gamer decrease your chances of getting limited? Would you say if you're showing signs such as this, like chasing losses, like you can find like a plus TV position to chase a loss, would that decrease your chances of getting profiled?
Absolutely. In my experience, yes. I actually will. I talked about this in episodes. I prime accounts trying to get profiled as a problem gambler. That's, I think, very optimal, and that's why this kind of behavior really disgusts me.
I think that the line between degen, huge whale, and problem gambler is pretty thin, right? So if you have different departments looking at it, maybe the problem gaming will say that this is a problem, but the trading team will say, this guy's a whale. So I think that you're probably trying to look as much like a whale as you can, which is actually pretty similar to problem gaming.
Okay. Oh, and I just want to point out, it also makes sense. Mike was a previous sportsbook employee, so of course he's going to be the simp for the sportsbooks here.
Yeah, well, we did a lot of offshore stuff, and there wasn't a ton of problem gaming reports personally. So,
and even with that, he's no Kirk, so don't worry about it.
We'll get back to the show in just a moment here. What's up, everybody? Jacob here. You've got friends who bet. We all do. Some sharp, some, let's just say, entertaining. Either way, send them our content. Whether it's Circle Back, Forward Progress, or one of our deep dive interviews, we're building content for people who actually care about betting. So help us spread the word. Share the video, tag a friend, send it to the group chat, and hey, it's the 4th of July. You're probably seeing a lot of friends and family today. Maybe somebody there has an interest in sports betting and wants to know about the biggest topic with the big, beautiful bill. Now is the perfect time to give others the opportunity to check out our content and they can see what they think. Maybe they'll enjoy and get involved just like you. We led off the previous show on the Tuesday show with the Malik Beasley gambling scandal. Well, that gambling scandal that we saw in the NBA is now kind of hitting the MLB. We have Jeff Passan here saying, breaking, Cleveland Guardians right-hander Luis Ortiz is being investigated for 2 individual pitches. One, June 15th, another June 27th. That received action flagged by a betting integrity firm. Sources tell me and at David Purdom, details free ESPN. Here is a post from John Boy Media, who grabbed videos of both of the pitches by Luis Ortiz. The first individual pitch was a little bit down and away on a curveball. And then the second one was very down and away into the dirt. So, if he was trying to make sure, he really made sure with the second one here. These sorts of markets being offered here. Let's start with you, Mike, on this one. This is a market that very easily could be manipulated by a pitcher without really receiving too much attention. It's similar to I've seen in soccer. Will there be a throw-in in the first minute of the game and team can just punt it out in the first 30 seconds or so? Do you think if things continue to trend this direction that we'll see less markets being offered like this?
Yeah, play carnival games and you get carnival prizes. It's the farther that you make this from the actual event that's being played on the field, these prop bets, the more that you run into a risk of these things happening. When it's the game that needs to be thrown, not many people are going to do that. When it's a rebound that they don't have to grab, tons of people are going to do that. So if you can get major money on some of these props that have nothing to do with winning or losing, you're just going to open yourself up to that. There's a lot of people are talking about the regulation has helped catch these things. I think that might be true, but also if we don't have these random prop bets like this, I don't think that the guys are necessarily throwing games. They're throwing these weird props, which is all a result of us creating props that basically have nothing to do with the outcome of the winner loser.
Yeah, and I think in instant, it's like nobody these days can just keep their fucking mouth shut and get a bet down. Whether it's Beasley, whether it's anybody like Louisa, like you tell a few people, like family members or something, like, hey, I'm going to do it. And it spreads all over the place. If anybody could just do good business and actually get a bet down and just, keep it on the low, you wouldn't have this happen, but it's like, no, Luis tells his brother, who tells his cousin, who tells the cashier at the local store, who talks to, Fluff's cousin, and then, there. So, it's hard to keep this under wraps nowadays.
People want the clout, and they are a lot cooler if you're sharing something like this, it would seem. What's your thoughts on this one, Fluff?
Honestly, Mike echoed him pretty perfectly. That Carnival Games example was spot on. I think very well said.
I just want to say that the theme of this show is if you are going to cheat, whether it's on some kind of gambling prop, taxes, whatever, make sure to do it smartly so you don't get caught. That's what I think that everybody should gather from the whole point of the show.
Great lesson to have from us here at Circle Back. That deserves definitely a subscription. Get us up to 20K. Let's go to our next topic here. We have a Dubclub pick seller called Basketball Goddess. Now, this one I came across last night and had to add it into the show. So this Dubclub pick seller, Basketball Goddess, and this was showcased by DK_DFS. She posted a 2-leg parlay. It was James Wood to record a hit and the Detroit Tigers alt total runs over 9.5. James Wood, just funny enough, was the leadoff topic of the last week's show where we talked about the home run parlay bet, which James Wood had the final home run for. So funny, the little connection there. But the Detroit Tigers had 10 runs, and it was the top of the 5th. James Wood still had not recorded a hit, and Basketball Goddess said, I can't risk it. Your girl cashed out. And as we can see from the photo here, her $5,000 parlay wager on -105 odds, she cashed out for $4,765, which, if you know how this works, is less than the $5,000 she wagered. So she cashed out for a loss. Then the bet ended up winning. She says, congrats to everyone who didn't cash out. You won. I'm not tripping that he got the hit. I can use that almost 5K on something else. Ian McMillan at Ian McBets, who does work with Sports Illustrated and sometimes features on our Forward Progress channel for NFL content, says, placed a 5K bet on a 2-leg parlay, cashed out for a loss after the first leg hits. Parlay ends up winning, sells plays on Dubclub. This is it. We've reached peak gambling Twitter. I wouldn't say we reached the peak because it got a little bit better. She said, still glad I didn't risk it after getting a lot of hate. I tried to hedge and put him for a single, but it locked on me. And I, like many others, was confused by this because the bet was for a hit. So hedging would not be to bet on a single. This was noticed by BDunk975, says, how do you sell picks and not understand what a hedge is? At Johnny Phantom _ says she needed a hit and then said she tried to hedge with him getting a single. Is anybody able to decipher what she was looking to accomplish by betting a single as a head? What was the theory there? Any ideas, Flip? I saw you facepalm.
I just think this is someone that doesn't understand what they're doing. Like, they have no edge, clearly. They don't understand anything about gambling. And they're just like, oh, a hit or a single is different than a hit. That must be a hedge because it can't be the same thing. So let me bet that. And there we go. But they didn't realize they were doubling down.
This girl has 123,000 followers on and is probably making legitimate money on Dubclub.
Probably more than you and me in our corporate job.
I can't fathom. I didn't even know. She also has locked her account, as I see right now.
Yeah, I did notice that as well.
Yeah, just wait for this, wait for it to die down here until. Also, the basketball goddess is put. And if you know anything about limits, she got $5K on this had to be a live, right? Because it was over 9.5 runs.
I assume.
So, she's betting a team total and a hit at -105 live, then cashing it. I mean, I tell you what.
Why even bet it if you don't want to risk it?
Hang on a second. There is a bright side here. She did lose the money to one of our sponsors in the channel, so in some way she is paying Jacob's salary. So we appreciate her good work there.
I would say that we have to give her a break here. Her name clearly says basketball goddess, not baseball goddess. So I don't know what people were expecting.
How can she be expected to know the rules?
Listen, for anybody's documented record, it's all about your specialty. All this extra stuff is just the bonus. It's all about the main, which is the basketball. You're right. So I wouldn't subscribe to her MLB plays in my personal opinion, but the basketball, I can't say for sure whether or not I would feel like that is a good investment to take.
There is an army of people that sell on Dubclub that have that is in a world that I know we're chronically online and gambling Twitter. There's Dubclub Twitter where these people have massive followings and I don't even know how it exists. It all happened and I wasn't privy to it. And now there's people making, 10K a month that don't even know the rules of betting, selling it. Yeah.
Hey, did you see the smart people? Because with all your guys are going to start getting taxed on your wings.
Right. It's over.
They're fine over there pick selling.
They're going to be living the dream still.
Did you see the other Dubclubber attack her? I love it when you see the Dubclub just attack and say no, you suck. No, you suck. That's the best.
Always the best stuff. All right. More good stuff on the way in the chopping block. This is the stuff that didn't warrant full segments on the show, but we still wanted to discuss a little bit nonetheless. And to start us off, we're bringing in this one here in regards to NFL futures market. We have at Deep Value Better, who said NFL futures markets have not gotten more efficient over the last decade. Misses by 2+ wins at 69%. Misses by 2+ wins 69% of the time, misses by 3+ wins 44% of the time, 4+ wins 25% of the times, projected 54.5 more wins than mathematically possible, over under 162 to 174. Bet alts. Knish, you're roaring to go here. Go ahead.
It's no joke. Years ago, and it's going to be a half good story, half no. Plus EV Analytics and Whale Capper were the originators of finding this edge in the market of they did a whole I bet it for Plus EV. I want to say maybe 4 years ago where we could just bet. This is before even the Caesars thing. You could bet the alts up and down on so many teams, and there were massive edges. The problem being is they fucking did content on it for a full year and told everybody about it. And now it's deader than dead. So yes, there are, it is kind of an inefficient in terms of their regular season win totals in the NFL up and down. But the pricing now used to be if you get 3 or 4 wins away from a team up and down on their win total, let's say it's 8.5, you go to 12.5, 13, or 4 or 5, you are getting massive prices, 50 to 1, 75 to 1, that type of stuff. Now the books have figured that it's 6 to 1, 7 to 1, so that that incredible ROI edge that there was 3, 4, 5 years ago is all toast. So yes, the guy makes a point. Guess what? He's 5 years too late.
I find it interesting. So a little behind the scenes, how we pick topics here. We all give a ranking on the topics, potential topics. There's the yes, okay, and no. And you would think for Knish's passionate rant there, he would have given a resounding yes to this topic, but he gave an okay. So I'm not sure.
You know what? Here's the issue. I didn't actually click on this tweet to see what it was, so I just default put okay when I was on my phone. So that might have been why I didn't have an actual that. And then I never actually read these beforehand. So when I saw it in real time, I was like, oh, wait, it kind of clicked in my head. So
you know what? I got to the recording at 4:00 and you were already waiting here. So you're on time today. So I'm not going to bash you anymore.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
somebody,
you for the credit I fully deserve today.
Somebody who did say yes to this topic was Mr. PeanutBettor. So what did you have for this one?
Can you put the tweet back up on the main screen here for us? So he says over under is 162 and 174. 174 divided by 1.1, so 110 odds, is 158. So if you blindly bet, the under, like he's saying here, you would lose money. So the fact that these are so inefficient, that doesn't make sense to me. Also, he says that it misses by 2+, misses by 3+, 44% of the time. He gives no indication of the pricing here on how the alts are priced. I don't know if that's right. Maybe that they have them as a break even of 25% of the time. And as far as the projected 54.5 more wins than mathematically possible, that's a mean median problem. It actually makes sense that teams are going to have numbers higher than the total wins, because when you miss your over under, you're much more likely to miss it by going under by a significant amount of games. I believe. I mean, I haven't done the math on it, but just injuries, things like that. It makes sense that you would actually have more wins projected than mathematically possible. They probably are juicing it to the over some, but this doesn't imply any kind of that these are terribly off or that you could win betting a certain strategy.
Anything to add from you, Flup?
Yeah, I think what's really nice here is having a sim can really help you because you can just see the prices here. And another thing, I disagree with a little what Knish said here. It's not all dead. Some teams, the variance is not calculated. Like a good example, I guess, it's pretty obvious at this point would be the odds that the Chiefs go under by a significant amount is not the same as a team like the Bears, because all the odds that the Chiefs are bad is basically derived from will Mahomes get a week 1 or 2 injury, whereas a team like the Bears, they could just fundamentally be really bad. They have so many new moving pieces. So I don't want to comment on how you can figure out that variance, but that is something that you can get a significant edge in if you know how to price them correctly.
Yeah, but you can find an edge in any. That's like saying, money lines and spreads aren't efficient in certain markets. Of course they are, but it doesn't mean that they don't know what they're doing or that they're pricing these,
Fair.
Markedly wrong.
Fair. I guess to Joey's credit, I have noticed they've improved. Because I was betting these 3 or 4 years ago myself as well, and I did notice they have improved in the last few years. But I do think that there's specific teams that you can target that are not doing, because they blanket, like most books, to my knowledge of what I've seen, they value every half win the same, like a 7.5 to 8 move or an 8 to 8.5 move the same, but it changes by team and it changes by schedule, and that's what I think the mistake that they're making right now is.
Our next topic is a little bit of betrayal, because Joey Knish, you had the mega viral tweet with 4.8 million views last week or 2 weeks ago saying Sophie Cunningham being hot, but then also crazy. It always raises scrap, makes her infinitely hotter. We talked about it on one of our previous shows, but she came at your city. She said, according to Yahoo Sports, on the WNBA expanding to multiple new cities over the next few years, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cleveland. Our Detroit resident Knish, how do you feel about the betrayal from your girl?
Women are the damn rake in life. I'll tell you that. You know what? Heartbroken doesn't even begin to describe it. You know what? This is why male loneliness epidemic is going because of things like this. I tell you what. You put all your eggs in a basket for a girl, and she, not even a week later, puts the knife right in you. So yeah, that was a tough one to see. If she comes to Detroit and maybe we get a meal or something, then maybe she can win me back.
Well, you're moving to Canada anyways. Maybe she'll like Toronto a little bit more than Detroit.
Yeah, maybe she can play for the Toronto expansion team.
Yeah, Sophie Cunningham is from Columbia, Missouri. So, I mean, if we're going to be talking bad about Detroit, like you're from Columbia, Missouri, I'd settle down.
She plays for the Indiana Fever. She acts like she's fucking in L.A. in Miami. Like, what are you talking about?
I just want to point out, Mike, was that a Coastal Elite comment I saw right there? I mean,
No, I'm from an area pretty close to Cleveland, so it's good Midwestern values here. I will say Indianapolis is probably remarkably much nicer than those cities. But it also is bold of Sophie to be talking about those cities. In an expansion draft, she's not going to be protected. The girl runs out there, does cardio basically for 14 minutes, is Tony Snell of the WNBA. So I would say that, she might be playing for one of these cities here if she's not careful.
Not if the Toronto Tempo snap her up before the 2026 season. And then Knish is moving to Toronto for sure. The next one comes from Las Vegas locally, who says a blackjack player betting $25,000 per hand at Resorts World was refused a comped strawberry banana smoothie because he didn't have a hotel room there. Bean counters, goofy algorithm, and incompetent casino executives are destroying Las Vegas. Mike, you said you're in Vegas right now. Have you seen a decline in the Las Vegas scene in the last few years?
So I've only been out here for just over 2 years. So I don't know what it was like in the good old days of maybe they were comping everything. But obviously this is just basically a mess up by whoever's running it. I think that at some point this is kind of like, the scene in The Office where he drives into the lake because the GPS told him to. You're not supposed to comp the guy smoothie if he doesn't have a room. But if he's spending $25,000, I don't care what the algorithm says. How about as worker at the casino just having common sense and saying, this guy's spending a ton of money, so I'll just go ahead and give him whatever the hell he wants.
Knish, you're more experienced with the casinos. What are your thoughts?
No, just listen. This is old Vegas, dead. This is just, especially new, like some of these new Resorts Worlds, and I forget the name of the other one escaped, but it's like the new casinos are being run like a corporate mandate instead of a place where people want to go for like leisure and enjoyment. And yet, like, if the guy's not staying, even if this wasn't the guy, even if you're sitting next to the guy, you're with him and he's playing $25K a hand, the smoothie costs like 75 cents wholesale. So like, just get the guy the fucking smoothie.
Smoothie while playing blackjack is a wild move. I will say. That's a weird drink to order.
Yeah. Maybe they didn't have it. Like, what the fuck? We don't even offer those.
It's not offered on the menu. They're like, well, why don't you order a rum and coke like a normal guy?
If he's betting $25K a hand, send somebody to the store to buy one. You want to say something, Fluff? Go ahead.
I can't believe this is real. Like, how do you deny the guy? Like, he might be losing like a couple $100 an EV per hand. The smoothie costs like 1% of that. What are we doing?
Yeah, strange one. Next one comes from Mr. Leaked at Mr. Leaked _ So this is a user who either buys plays themselves or has access to plays that are behind a paywall and leaks them onto Twitter for people to see. They say, that Winnable has now threatened me with legal action. It's a shame these companies take time out of their day to threaten people instead of making sure that touts they platform are actual winning bettors. And he posted a screenshot of the screenshot from Winnable, a pick-selling platform, which says, which is a cease and desist demand within 24 hours. You must permanently delete every Winnable post from your account and other channels you control. Stop any future uploads or distribution of Winnable materials. And this is in response to a CBLES leak on the page. So all ties in nicely there on that one. But how do we feel about accounts like this existing, Mike? These because on one hand, like, it's kind of funny, but on the other hand, Winnable has a point here to me.
Well, so, I mean, newsbreakers break things in other industries all the time. And essentially what it's ruled is that the other companies can use it as fair use in those regards. I don't think that anybody's picks would necessarily be anything beyond that. I think that they'd probably have a hard time legally enforcing it. But I do understand from their point of view, if you're going to have this business where you have picks, if somebody's giving them out for free, you can't have it. So I understand them coming back legally at him, but I doubt that they have much of a case.
Is there anything they can do here, Knish?
I gotta tell you, as much as I want to comment on the topic, this looks awfully familiar to something that maybe the company that we worked for received in the not too long ago. So I just find it interesting that it was a CBLES thing that got sent to him. So it might be could be a group, certain parties out there that are, if you put their stuff out there, they're going to send you these actual cease and desist. So, but no, I don't have I don't know. I like the account because I think it's funny when people are exposing it. But yeah, very, very interesting that it was a CBLES member sending this out. More to come on that potentially.
What do you think, Flup? Is there any grounds here that Winnable can stand on? Can they get this user to delete the posts?
Unlikely, in my opinion. I think he's good, but I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my advice.
Like I said, they're within their rights to try and get them to stop, but there's nothing they can really do about it. I guess in the world of fair use, like what could Mr. Leaked actually do here? They would have to basically take the pics and give them out as their own, I think. I mean, there's other people who do that behind a paywall. So I guess if you do it for free, it can't be as bad as doing it like that. Next one, and this is the final one that we have here. We have Van Zach at Covers Van Zach says, the don't leak your edge people are akin to don't give up the location of your pet unicorn people. What do you think on this one, Flup?
That was hilarious and so true, because like Joey was alluded to earlier, if you tell someone something, it's going to get around. I mean, yes, if someone were to tell me an edge and I was rooting for it, I wouldn't tell anyone. But every time you add someone, if you want to scale, you have that risk, and it's going to get out. No edge is ever safe, and part of being a gambler is adapting. Should you do it? No, you shouldn't leak your edge. But come on, it's going to get out. And also, people find the same edges. It's not like I feel like I'm the only one that can find one specific SGP edge. So it's going to get out, whether by someone leaking it or someone figuring it out themselves. It'll get out. And to think that you have rights for forever and can hide it is just laughable and ludicrous.
All right, we'll let you go. Flup's got to catch his flight to New Brunswick to escape the big, beautiful bill. We'll finish up with us three here. Knish, you were mentioning it earlier, but how often has this happened to you where you lose an edge because it keeps going around like this?
Oh, yeah. It's one of the life cycle goes a lot faster nowadays, I will tell you, than it did years ago. Because if something gets out there, then it spins and it's crazy. So, yeah, it's frustrating. It's annoying. But it kind of, as Flup said, part of the business, and the more people that join the circle, the faster it goes.
It also depends how long you think you can keep the edge. There's certain things that I won't send out to groups because I think, this will last for a little bit longer if I don't. But then you can't get down as much on it as far as volume. So a lot of things aren't that complicated. Once you see it come through, any moving group that is not an idiot is going to be like, oh, he's clearly doing this angle pretty consistently, and you're going to leak it eventually. So yeah, you're going to leak it eventually. You do all you can to prevent it, but if you want to bet it at scale, you're realistically, unless you got a great operations side, you're probably going to have to send it out, and then as soon as you send it out, you're messed with. So
well, you're going to want to keep your edges to yourself, but you can share the wealth with the Circles Off channel. Like I said earlier, tell a friend, share the video, share the podcast, send it to the group chat. Get the word out about the channel and get the word out about Circle Back. We do shows like this every 8 a.m. every Tuesday and Friday, at 8 a.m. Drop a like if you did enjoy this one. Subscribe for more content just like it. And we're working very hard behind the scenes at The Hammer to bring you more, better content. We hope to see you soon for the next one.